Good day, everyone. I want to start by apologizing for my inability to come for my class today. I'm very sorry. It was beyond my control, actually. We're having exams, and the exams get my attention as the exam officer. Sorry. So I decided we have the lecture through online means so that we will not miss the period. Looking at the situation we are in right now. Ramadan is about to come, so we need to manage effectively and see how we can catch up with the audience. So our lecture for today is about uh, attitude and attitude in the workplace, attitude of individual at work. So it's what we are going to discuss today. Attitude is another important organizational behavior topics that we need to pay our attention and learn one or two things from. We work in a lot of places, work organizations, and these organizations, uh, comprises people from different walks of life. And most of the times, as managers, as supervisors, we come across different attitudes from individuals. Some workers, have the habit of coming late. Some are disrespectful to their supervisor or manager. Many attitudes, and sometimes the attitudes are not even, you cannot explain why someone behaves the way he did. So this topic is going to address most of our concern by understanding attitude of individual at work. Try to relate the likely consequences of someone's attitude at work. What are the resulting consequences to the work, to the organization, and maybe to the employees' job performance? So, introduction, having a positive attitude in workplace won't necessarily make you uh, a better at your job. Like for example, I'm a teacher. The only way to be a better teacher is to research, to study very hard and see how I can improve myself, my communication skills, and what have you, so that I can do it better in the classroom. My attitude, directly may not have an attitude of my performance. But if you look at it, critically, it may has an impact on my performance. But directly, you may not relate. But this good attitude you may have may directly, help you to achieve a lot of, result and what have you within the organization. So having a positive attitude in workplace will not necessarily make you a better at your job, but it will improve the way people view you as a person. So they may be more inclined to help you succeed and cheer you on. If, for example, you are a manager and you have a very good attitude towards workers and what have you, other employee within the organization, then you are likely going to get cooperation from your fellow subordinates because you have good attitude. Positive attitude is important for many reasons, but one of the main reasons for having a positive attitude in the workplace is because it can rub off on everyone else. That is, it is contagious. You understand? Once you have a good attitude, you are likely going to infect people around you. Most people, like your subordinate or people under you, are likely going to exhibit similar attitude. So exuding positivity can be infectious, and over time it can influence your co-workers, according to Business News Daily in 2023. So by this, we understood that attitude at work is very important factor that a manager needs to study and make a considerable and pay a considerable attention to make sure positive attitude are prevailing within the organization. So attitude at work. So at work, What are the attitudes that we normally come across or uh, see within our work environment? We all hold thousands of attitudes, but organizational behavior focuses on a narrow set of those positive or negative evaluations employees have about their work. On behavior at work often depends on how we feel about being there. Therefore, understanding workplace behavior requires an appreciation of employee work attitudes. Eh, as a manager, you need to understand people's attitude so that you can relate their behavior within the organization. If someone maybe always complain about a particular supervisor or maybe performs poorly, it might be because someone attitude is constraining them or is affecting them within the organization. So in essence, an attitude refers to our opinion, beliefs, and feeling about aspect of our environment or anything that affect our life. Just as we have attitude toward food we eat, the people we interact with, or the courses we take in our school, we also develop attitude toward our jobs, colleagues, and organization. Like some of us, like our job very much. Some of us, are just managing. We only remain in our organization because we have no substitute. Or maybe the cost of moving to another job is very high. So with that, we remain in our organization and continue managing. But our attitude, is not must not be positive in those kind of organization. So component of an attitude. This attitude we are talking about, comprises of three factors. There is cognitive aspect, there is affective aspect, and then there are behavioral aspect. By these three components, we can understand that attitude is something that happens, gradually, that generates over time from from psychological evaluation of a situation to a feeling of the situation and then to a behavior, practical actions, taking actions by behaving in certain way within the organization. For example, under cognitive, we say is an evaluation that employee normally carries out in relation to a particular thing or person within the organization. For example, my supervisor gave a promotion to a coworker who deserved it less than I did. Maybe it's someone within the organization who perceives injustice, a sense of injustice, unfairness. Maybe there is someone who is not as hardworking as the person, but he was promoted, and the guy, perceives sense of unfairness or injustice, and that's why the guy did make this evaluation about the supervisor, because maybe the supervisor was the one that promoted or rated the employee to be promoted. So the employee in question, perceived this have this, conclusion in his mind that this supervisor is unfair. You understand? And that unfair feelings or perception may stay in the mind and generate into a feeling towards the supervisor. That is affective aspect. That is the feeling. For example, I dislike my supervisor because he unfairly treated me. He promoted someone who is not supposed to be promoted, and now I dislike him because of the unfair treatment he gave to me. So dislike, so affective aspect of attitude is that is where the feeling, started, generating. And then the last one is the action. If care is not taken, as this worker, continue to live together with this supervisor, it may reach a point when this employee may likely take an action against the supervisor. Maybe he may report him. Maybe he may decide to leave the organization at all entirely. You understand? So it all depends on the kind of actions the employee decide to take. So, but the most important thing here is the component of attitude is in three areas. It normally happens with psychological evaluation, and then gradually it generates into a feelings, and then from feelings it leads to an actions. You understand? So this is the component of an attitude. So from these three scenario we provide here, we can understand that this would definitely lead to a negative attitude toward the supervisor. You understand? So each attitude within an organization, outcome comprises of these three components. So viewing attitude as having three components affect behavior and cognitive. Example, the ABC of attitude helps us understand their complexity and the potential relationship between attitude and behavior. At work, two particular job attitudes have the greatest potential to influence how we behave. These are job satisfaction and organizational commitment. So, from the beginning, we mentioned that there are a number of attitudes that employees show within the organization. But the most important attitude as far as OB is concerned is job satisfaction and organizational commitment. Most of the behavior, most of the feelings, most of the attitude we form within the organization mostly centered around these two factors, job satisfaction and organizational commitment. Now we are going to look at them separately and see what they consist. The first one is job satisfaction. Job satisfaction refers to the feeling people have toward their job. Most of us here, we are employees in various organizations. Some of us here, are very much in love with their organization because maybe the way organization treat them, the working environment, the salary packages, the work flexibility, and so many other things. And for that reason, we like the organization. And when you have this feeling, you are likely going to remain with the organization. You are likely going to do whatever it takes to protect the interests of the organization by working very hard, by even working beyond your stipulated hours to make sure the interest of the organization is protected or the goals of the organization is achieved. So, number of studies conducted on job satisfaction is an indication that job satisfaction is probably the most important job attitude. Job satisfaction is an area where large number of researches have been conducted. If you check Google Scholar, just write job satisfaction on Google Scholar and search for it. You will see like millions of results because number of scholars have worked on it because of its significance in organizations. So job satisfaction is an attitude that reflects the extent to which an employee is gratified by or fulfilled in his or in their work. So a satisfied employee also tends to be less absent, to make positive contribution and to stay with the organization. In contrast, a dissatisfied employee may be absent more often, may experience stress that disrupts co-workers and may be continually looking for another job. When someone is dissatisfied with their job, they are likely going to behave in a negative way towards the organization. A lot of counterproductive work behaviors, absenteeism, late coming, failure to meet target or deadlines and what have you. Number of ways employees show their dissatisfaction toward their job. And then the second aspect of the commitment is the organizational of the attitude is the organizational commitment. Organizational commitment and job satisfaction are moving closely together because when someone is satisfied with their job, they are likely going to be highly committed to their job. You understand? Even though there are some exceptional cases because of some factors which we are going to talk about later. So, organizational commitment is the emotional attachment people have toward the company they work for. There is a high degree of overlap between job satisfaction and organizational commitment because things that make us happy with our job is likely going to make us committed to the organization. So companies believe that these attitudes are worth tracking because they are often associated with important outcomes such as performance, helping others, absenteeism, and turnover. So these two factors, job satisfaction and commitment, are the most important factor within the organization because these factors lead to a lot of things, a lot of behaviors within organizations. They affect performance seriously, and they affect the way employee do what we call extra roles or play some extra role within the organization. We call it citizenship behavior, like helping somebody, a co-worker, like doing things which are not specified in their job descriptions. You understand? So all those things are because someone is happy and that's why they are committed and are doing these extra things to make uh, to advance the organization, forward. And then they are likely going to have few cases of absenteeism, and they are not likely going to leave the organization. So the turnover rate is going to be less within the organization. But in a contrary situation where people are dissatisfied, they are likely going to be less committed to their job, and they are likely going to decide or intend to leave the organization. So when opportunity, comes, they are likely going to move. So the organization is likely going to have high turnover rate. This is the reason why some organization, they have, turnover of workers. People come and leave, consistently. So traditionally, theories, consider commitment to be comprised of three components. We have effective, normative, and continuous commitment. So in order to understand commitment, I think we need to talk about these three aspects of commitment. So generally, employee commitment is divided into three. There is affective commitment, reflect emotional attachment to and involvement in the organization. This one is a psychological attachment to the organization that an employee, may have, because the organization, cares about them, take care of them, provide good working condition. There is possibility of growth. There is a lot of, opportunities within the organization. So someone may likely fall in love with the organization to the extent that he may develop a kind of a psychological attachment to the organization, where a stage where employee will not want to leave the organization. And then there is normative commitment that reflect the sense of obligation on employee feels to an organizations. Normative is a kind of the feeling of uh, obligations on part of the employee to the classmate. Dama. Sorry. Yeah. So normative commitment reflects the sense of obligation an employee feels to an organization. Like for example, I have this feeling towards university. You understand? When we were recruited, we were GAs without any, only first degree. Higher university, provided scholarship for our masters, for PhD. They pay for some conferences and what have you we participated in. They pay for some workshop trainings and what have you. So they spend a lot to develop us. So there is this feeling in our mind that we cannot leave Bayero University because Bayero University has done a lot to our lives. So this kind of feelings, sometimes makes someone to commit very well to the organization, to do all the necessary things to make sure the organization, succeed. And this is the reason why some of us, even though the work environment is not so friendly, but we are working very hard to make sure the system doesn't fail because of this normative commitment. So it's an obligation on our part that we need to pay back the organization because the organization has done a lot to us. And then finally, there is continuous commitment. This continuous commitment normally happens when someone, is factoring the cost of leaving the organization. If, for example, there is no available job, like job opportunities outside, someone will not likely leave the organization. But once the opportunity, comes, person will likely leave the organization. And sometimes there might be a cost of leaving the organization. Maybe, for example, someone uh, uh, consideration of leaving the organization and drive to continue as an employee. Okay, the cost to leave the organization, for example, if for example I am to leave Bayero University to take a job at maybe FUD and my family are here in Kano, then there will be additional cost of transportation. You understand? And I already, develop. I am popular in Bayero University, Kano. I have already started going far in my career. So it will take time for me if I change to maybe another university before I stay stabilize within the organization. So all those things are what people normally, consider, and that make them to continue, working in the organization. So if you find someone who stay in the organization because the cost of leaving the organization is higher than the benefit is likely going to get. So that person may have continuous commitment. But continual commitment is not genuine commitment, because once you have an opportunity, you just leave the organization and go somewhere else. So relationship between attitude and behavior. How strong is the attitude behavior link? First of all, it depends on the attitude in question. Your attitude towards colleague may influence whether you actually help them on a project, but may not be a good predictor whether you will quit your job. So attitude, sometimes you cannot predict someone's attitude within the organization. Someone may be angry about something, but you cannot tell if that person is leaving the organization because of that, or is going to do take some actions because of that thing that happened. Secondly, it is worth noting that attitude are more strongly related to intentions to behave in a certain way rather than the actual behavior. And most of the times, you will find a lot of situations where employee, may have an intention to leave, but the leaving the organization will depend on so many factors. So it takes someone who will be planning to leave, but we may not be able to do that. So the person may stay to the organization till maybe retirement. You understand? So sometimes our attitude toward our job or our attitude or the feelings does not translate into actions in most situations. For example, when you are dissatisfied with your job, you have the intention to leave. Whether you actually leave is a different story. Your living will depend on many factors such as availability of alternative jobs in the market, your employability in different company, even the skills. If you are working in a unique organization where that skill is only usable in the organization, you may not find it easy to leave the organization. And sacrifices you have to make while changing job and location. Extra cost that you are likely going to incur if you leave your present organization. So all these things, may tell the reason why someone may not take the action, even though there is intention, or maybe someone is frustrated or not happy with their job. So in other words, while attitude gives us hint about how a person might behave, it is important to remember that behavior is also strongly influenced by situational constraint. So what causes positive work behavior? We mentioned organizational commitment and job satisfaction. So what are the factors that most at times, cause this, positively, influence these two factors? What makes you satisfied with your job and develop commitment to your company? Research shows that people pay attention to several aspects of their work environment, including how they are treated, the relationships they form with colleagues and managers, and the actual work they perform. So, number of factors were discovered that influence someone just satisfaction and commitment. So, we are going to look at these factors one after the other to see what they entail. So, the first one is personality. Personality is a natural something in someone, inbuilt, features and qualities in somebody. Some people, are naturally, they're always happy, while others, are just, they're always sad. So this kind of people, are likely going to behave differently within organizations. So can assessing the work environment fully explain how satisfied uh, we are on the job? Interestingly, some experts have shown that job satisfaction is not purely environmental and is partially due to our personality. Some people have a disposition to be happy in life and at work, regardless of environmental factors. Right now, in our university, there are so many lecturers who are passionate about this job. They like teaching, they like research, and they are very happy in this environment. Even though a lot of people, are complaining about the work environment, salaries, and what have you. But a lot of people are very happy with the environment. So it seems that people who have a positive affective disposition, those who have tendency to experience positive mood more often than negative, tends to be tend to be more satisfied with their jobs and are more committed to their company. While those who have a negative disposition tend to be less satisfied and less committed. And actually, it's true because even here in our department, we have some colleagues who are well to do. Some, they have gotten a lot of resources from their parents, inheritance and things like that. And some, are doing some extra consultancy services and they're getting a lot of money. For some of these guys, that are richer, there is one of them that is the most complainant. He complains a lot in this department. Sometimes I most times I don't even want to sit close to this guy because when he starts, he'll make me dislike this job because he'll be talking, he'll be complaining, the work environment, the salary, a lot of things. He'll make you dislike the job. So most people don't want to sit close to this person because he's always complaining, and he is better than all of us. You understand? This is his nature. So personality, at times, can make someone, dislike their job, can make someone to be dissatisfied with their job. And when they are dissatisfied, they are not likely going to commit to the job effectively. Then the next one is person environment fit. There are two factors here. There is person job fit and person organization fit. By fit, it means like a kind of balance between you and your job. This normally happens when you have what it takes to carry out the job, like the skills, the requirement, the experience, and what have you. Then there will be a perfect, person job made fit. You can do the job effectively. And likewise, the organization, if organization, has some culture that you value, like if the organization, prioritizes, innovations, and you are a highly innovative person, you are likely going to have a fit with the organization. There will be a perfect, cultural alignment between you and the organization. So person environment fit is another factor that affects job satisfaction and commitment. The fit between what you bring to the work, to our work environment, and the environmental demand places influences our work attitude. Therefore, a person job fit and person organization fit are positively related to job satisfaction and commitment. When our abilities match job demand and our value, match company values, we tend to be more satisfied with our jobs and more committed to the company we work for. So this is another factor that affects job satisfaction and commitment within organization. And then we have job characteristics. The presence of certain characteristics on the job seems to make employee more satisfied and more committed. Using a variety of skills, having autonomy at work, receiving feedback on the job, and performing significant tasks are some job characteristics that are related to satisfaction and commitment. So it's another factor. When you have some people, when they have a challenging job, they are likely going to be very happy on the job. You understand? While some is a undesirable, situation, challenge, but others, find it, motivating, satisfying, and they are likely going to be committed on the job. So, however, presence of this factor is not important for everyone. There are some similarities. Some people have a high growth need. They expect their job to help them build new skills and improve as an employee. So the job characteristics, at times, depends on the person requirement from the jobs. If maybe my requirement from the job is challenge, you understand? Like my job, lecturing job is very challenging. Sometimes you are given a course that you have never taught, which will make you, work very hard to get the material to learn and go and teach students. It's very challenging. This kind of challenge are very positive. They make someone work very hard and commit to their job. But someone, may not need this kind of challenge. Someone may need an easy way to grow within the organization. You understand? So it all depends on the person. But generally, job characteristics, are some of the factors that make someone happy and committed on the job. And then we have psychological contract. Psychological contract is a kind of expectation someone has uh, on the organization. When someone is coming to the organization, they may have some expectation of the organization, the kind of work, the kind of output they get from the organization, and how the organization is going to help them to support them to carry out their work. So after accepting a job, people come to work with a set of expectations. They have an understanding of their responsibilities and right. In other words, they have a psychological contract with the company. A psychological contract is an unwritten understanding about what the employee will bring to the work environment and what the company will provide in exchange. You understand the kind of expectations someone may have when you are joining the organization, the kind of anxiety and thinking that you will be making about what are you going to be doing in the organization and how is this organization going to make your life better. So people, become very happy when their expectations are met by the organization and become dissatisfied when those expectations are not met. So it all depends. So when people do not get what they expect, they experience a psychological contract breach, which leads to low job satisfaction and commitment. Imagine that you were told before being hired that the company was family friendly and collegial. However, while after recruitment, you realize that they expect employee to work 70 hours a week and employees are aggressive toward each other. That is not what you are expecting. So you are likely going to experience a psychological contract breach, and that is likely going to make you dissatisfied and less committed on their job because this organization is not likely going to uh, make you happy. This is not what you want. So you are likely to experience a breach in your psychological contract and be dissatisfied. One way of preventing such problems is for companies to provide realistic job preview to their employees before they are hired, so that someone will have a free foreknowledge of what they're expected, the job description, job analysis, and what have you, before they even get to the organization, so that someone can decide whether they can work for the organization or not. Okay. Then the next factor is organizational justice. A strong influence over our satisfaction level is how fairly we are treated within the organization. People pay attention to the fairness of the company policies and procedures, treatment from supervisors and pay, and other rewards they receive from the company. We have three types of justice, depending on the literature. Some, divide, justice into four. And most of the studies, look at it, three forms. Then there is interactional justice, procedural, and distributive justice. Whenever an employee perceives a sense of unfairness, unfair treatment from these three areas, that employee is likely going to be dissatisfied. For example, interactional justice. International justice is justice that happen when someone that happens between employee and their superiors, supervisors, managers, or superiors within the organization. If someone is accommodated, is carried along, all the information is provided and is involved in meeting and so many other things, that person may perceive fairness with regards to interaction and justice, interaction within the organization between the superior and the junior. No one will feel sidelined, you understand? So that employee is likely going to be happy because he's carried along. During a meeting, your input are valued. See that? Things like that. So employee is likely going to perceive a sense of fairness in that respect. Then there is procedural justice. The procedures organization follow to deliver some reward and what have you within the organization is what we are talking about here. If the procedure in organization used to promote or to evaluate employees' performance is fair, then the employee are likely going to perceive fairness on the part of the organization. But once the procedure is maybe skewed or selfish or biased, then employee are likely going to perceive sense of injustice, and that is seriously going to affect their satisfaction on the job. And then we have distributive justice. Distributive justice is a justice with regards to the rewards employee receive from the organization in the form of salary, allowances, bonuses, promotion, and what have you. Employees, most at times, try to compare their input and the output they receive. If the input is less than the output, then they are likely, is more than the output, sorry, they are likely going to experience satisfaction because it's unfair. When your effort, your your talent and what have you, experience is not tallying or is not commensurating with the amount of money the organization pays you as salary or wages, you're likely going to perceive a sense of injustice. So this justice, organizational justice, affects employee satisfaction and commitment. Once there is an issue of injustice, employees are likely going to be dissatisfied on their job, and they are likely going to behave in a number of negative, uh, counterproductive behaviors within the organization. And this justice also seriously affect commitment, effective commitment. Effective commitment, like I mentioned earlier on, is a kind of love psychologically that someone fall in love with the organization. So from this justice, you can build that commitment. If someone is fairly treated, that person is likely going to like the organization, appreciate the way organization treats them, and they are likely going to pay back positively. And then continuous, they are likely going to develop a sense of obligation to continue working for the organization because the organization is fairly treating them. Likewise, normative commitment. They may not see a reason to leave the organization. So this is how justice, affects satisfaction and commitment. And then we have relationships at work. It's another factor that affect our satisfaction and commitment within our organization. Two strong predictors of our happiness at work and commitment to the company are our relationship with co-workers and managers. The people we interact with, their degree of compassion, our level of social acceptance in our work group, whether we are treated with respect, are all important factors surrounding our happiness at work. So relationship is another important factor. When you need, you want a positive attitude from your workers, then you need to treat them very well. You need to have a very good interpersonal relationship with them so that it will go a long way in making them happy and commit very well to their job. Research also shows that our relationship with our manager, how considerate the manager is, and whether we build a trust-based relationship with our manager are critically important to our job satisfaction and organizational commitment. So this relationship at work is very important factor. So as managers or potential managers, we need to work very hard to build or to train ourselves or to develop skills that will help us to relate with other workers, harmoniously. Then another important factor that affects satisfaction and commitment is stress. Our stress level, affects how happy we are within the organization. Not surprisingly, the amount of stress present in our jobs related to our satisfaction and commitment. For example, experiencing role ambiguity, vagueness in relation to what our responsibility are, role conflict, facing contradictory demand at work, and organizational politics, and worrying about the security of our jobs are all stressors that make people dissatisfied with their jobs. So in an organization where employees are having these worries, they are likely going to develop their stress level is likely going to be high, and that is really going to affect their satisfaction on the job. So on the other hand, not all stress is bad. Some stressors actually make us happier. For example, working under time pressure and having a high degree of responsibility are stressful, but they can also be perceived as challenges and tend to be related to high level of satisfaction. Though stress, is related to negative behavior within organizations, but sometimes, this stress, helps to make some what people, very active, perform better. You know, so there are some category of people who perform at their best when they are out of time, when they are working under a tight schedule. You understand? So they are likely going to, work very hard, and that will make them, put more effort and achieve, so within a shortest possible time. So stress, mostly, normally affects satisfaction, but there are some exceptional cases where High level of stress, makes someone to commit more to their job. And then another important factor is work-life balance. Work-life balance. In the 50s, 1950s, people, consider job, with all respect. They commit, fully to their job, not minding about their personal lives. But gradually, people, began to, change with the understanding of the need to balance their life because there is need for them to have a time for their family and have fun, enjoy and make their life better. So now we have issues of work-life balance within organization. Any organization that is not helping its employee to balance their work-life issues, they are likely going to have number of dissatisfied workers. So in modern times, more employees expect to lead balanced lives, pursue hobbies, and spend more time with their children, while at the same time continue to succeed at work. The notion of work-family conflict is one cause of job dissatisfaction. This conflict can be particularly strong for women because of the time necessary for pregnancy and giving birth, but men struggle with it as well. When work life interferes with family life, we are more stressed and unhappy with our jobs. Research shows that policies that help employees achieve a balance between their work and personal life, such as allowing telecommuting, are related to high job satisfaction. So, people are very much worried about how they can balance their work and life yeah, issues. And research, has shown, and most policies in organizations that allow people to work maybe from home or they work at their choosing time, they are likely going to work better than an organization that strictly, force worker to adhere to some, formal schedule of work, maybe from 9 to 5, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. and things like that. You understand? So people are likely going to do better and become highly satisfied on their job when they allow flexibility on the job. And this is the reason why we have issues like flexi time, flexi hours, uh, flexi space, and things like that, where employees are allowed to work at their convenience. Okay. For example, the medical resource group of pharmaceutical company AstraZeneca International does not have fixed working hours. An employee can work any hours they choose. So this can allow people to balance their life. You can have time for your family, you can have time for your personal hustle, and at the same time, you can effectively choose time for your work to the organization. Someone can decide to work overnight and spend the rest of the day, doing their personal thing or staying with their family. Understand? Likewise, Motorola Technological Acceleration Group also has flexible hours and can work from anywhere, home, office, or coffee shop at any time. So this is how organization help their employee to balance work and life, and that if it happens, it's likely going to boost employee satisfaction on the job. And when they are satisfied, they are likely going to commit more and make sure they do their work effectively. So these are the factors, that affect. The two factors are the two attitude we mentioned in organization: just satisfaction and commitment. So what is the consequences of positive work attitude? What happens in organization where employees have positive work attitude? Positive work attitude have been related to number of positive behaviors in organization. Work attitude are often good predictor of work behavior, such as performance, citizenship behavior. Performance is the primary job the organization hire us to perform. For example, my performance, like tax performance or enroll performance, is the teaching and research that university hired me to do. So if I fail in this respect, university is likely going to punish me because I'm not doing what they expect me to do, what they are paying me to do. So performance. So most of the times, this positive attitude, they relate, positively to work performance. Once someone is having a positive attitude like just satisfaction and commitment, their performance level is likely going to be high. Likewise, They can also go extra mile to do what we call citizenship behaviors, doing things that are not specified in their work schedules, but they are doing those things because they are so happy that they want to protect the interests of the organization. You understand? So they call it citizenship behavior. So when you have a positive work attitude, you are likely going to see a number of ways that employee positively behave toward the organization. You are likely going to see less absenteeism cases, less late coming, less complain, and what have you. And employees are likely going to stay with the organization till retirement because there is likely going to be low or less turnover rate within the organization. And that happened because of positive work attitude. So as managers, we need to find ways to see how we can, exude or influence positive work attitude in our organizations. So assessing work attitude in the workplace. How do we assess work attitude in our workplace? As managers, we cannot just sit down and relax or fold our arms and expect positive attitude to happen. So we need to make sure we check some indicators, we check some factors within organization or do things that will make these behaviors positive within the organization. And sometimes we don't know how to, and we don't know what is going on within the organization. So we need to make an intentional, effort to find out how can the organization, help their employee to be happy. How can the organization, minimize, the rate of absenteeism and turnover intention. So given that work attitude may give us clue as to who will leave or stay within organization. You understand? The attitude of employee toward their work can tell you whether someone is likely going to stay or not. For example, person a person that always complains about the organization may likely leave the organization when an opportunity presents itself comes. You understand? So from someone attitude, you can have a clue as to how they are likely going to behave in the future or to what the organization uh, goals be engaged. So tracking satisfaction and commitment level is helpful step for companies. If there are company-wide issues that make employee unhappy and disengaged, then this issue need to be resolved. There are at least two systematic ways in which company can track work attitude through attitude survey and exit interview. So one of the identified ways that a manager can follow or use to check, attitude, people attitude within, to track people attitude within organization is attitude survey and exit interview. Attitude survey is a kind of survey that you conduct, periodically, quarterly, or half a year to check whether how your employee are faring within the organization. And then exit interview is normally happens are conducted when someone is leaving the organization so that you will find out the reason why someone is leaving. So let's look at these two factors, in detail. So the first one is attitude survey. An attitude survey, often called employee attitude survey or organizational climate survey, is a structured data collection instrument used by organizations to measure employee perceptions, feelings, and opinions about their work environment, management practices, policies, and overall organizational experiences. This attitude survey is an important ways that an organization can get to know about so many things that relate to the work. So key areas typically measured include job satisfaction. Through this survey, you can be able to measure the satisfaction level of someone's, if at all, your employees. How happy are they with the job? Are they happy, not happy? This can help you to understand that. And then leadership and supervision. You can also be able to understand how people are being led within the organization, how leaders are leading the organization, how are they managing the organization. That can be can be known through this survey. And sometimes, if especially if you make it, anonymous survey, where the person responding to the maybe the questionnaire is not known, the identity and what have you is hidden. So it's kind of anonymous, data collections where people can be free to say whatever it is it in their minds. They can tell you the actual information, you understand the reason why things are happening within the organization. What will make you, do some adjustment to make things better for them. And then communication effectiveness, you can also assess the level of communication effectiveness within the organization. The work environment, how happy are employee, how happy employee are with the work environment. Do they need some changes within the work environment? Does the new machine, make work easier for them? Things like that. And then compensation and benefits. How happy are they with how are they comfortable with the pay, the organization? Training and development opportunities or need can be ascertained using this survey. People can tell you areas where they think organization can provide training to upskill or scale them to do more for the organization. Organizational culture and values. Maybe there is a policy within the organizations that is not, aligning with the employees' values, meaning there is no person organization fit or person organization fit. Yes, so you may change that and make things better for everyone within the organization. Employee recognition and motivation, that can also help you to identify that. And then work-life balance. Employee can be in a position to tell you how organization can help them to balance their life and work so that things will be more efficient and effective for everyone within the organization. And then the next one is exit interview. Exit interview is a structured discussion conducted with an employee who is leaving an organization, typically before their departure, to obtain feedback about their experiences, reason for leaving, and perception of the workplace. If someone is leaving the organization, that person is likely going to give you objective, opinion about the organization, their objective opinion about the organizations, why they are leaving the organization, what things the organization need to put in place or change to retain their workers. All this can be known through this exit interview. Organization that allows people to just go without this exit interview, they are not likely going to know so many things. Reason behind people, turnover rate and what have you. So purpose of exit interview, organization conduct exit interview to identify reason for employee turnover, detect management or workplace issues. Maybe there is issue of justice, maybe rational justice between the supervisor and the worker, and something like that. So that can be known through this interview. It assess employee satisfaction and engagement. That interview, some part of it may be tailored to elicit some responses or information from the employee as to what are their satisfaction level, what are the things organization need to improve to boost their satisfaction, maybe the employees within the organization. That can be known. And then improve retention strategies. Through this interview, you can be able to uh, to get valuable insight that will help you to revamp your HR policies to make things easy for your employees. And then enhance organizational culture and work environment. So these are the benefits or reason why this exit interview is very important. And then when exit interviews are conducted, exit interviews usually occur during employees' notice period. If maybe someone provide a written notice that they are leaving in next 2-3 months, then you need to carry out the exit interview to find out why. Is it because he has gotten a better opportunities, or is it because of the problem within the organization that makes him to leave the organization? That can help you to find out. And then on the last working day, maybe you are sending off someone, you are celebrating someone's sales and what have you, departing, are likely going to maybe interview this person, find out why this guy is going, what are the reasons. And shortly after departure, follow-up interview. Maybe after someone leaves the organization, maybe they have started in the new place, maybe you can find a way to see how you can interview them about the organization. At that moment, they may be in a very comfortable situation to tell you more. So, in summary, work attitudes are the feelings we have toward different aspects of the work environment. Job satisfaction and organizational commitment are two key attitudes that are the most relevant to important outcomes. Attitudes create an intention to behave in a certain way and may predict actual behavior under certain conditions. People develop positive work attitude as a result of their personality, fit with their environment, stress levels they experience, relationship they develop, perceive fairness of their pay, company policies, or interpersonal treatment, whether their psychological contract is violated, and the presence of policies addressing work-life conflict. When people have more positive work attitude, they have mission to perform better, display citizenship behaviors, and be absent less often and for a shorter period of time, and they are less likely to quit their jobs within a short period of time. When workplace attitudes are more positive, companies benefit in the form of higher safety and better customer service, as well as higher company performance. So this is a summary of what we have discussed so far. So this is end of the lecture. So if there is any question, you can post it to, to my WhatsApp through the class channel. Or maybe you can reserve some of the questions you may have, maybe in our next class. Confirm it. Thank you very much. I really appreciate your understanding for my inability to come today. Thank you very much.